This is Trend Following Radio, where great thinking comes alive. Nobel Prize winners, legendary traders, best-selling authors, and the pros that know what drive us irrational human beings. I am your host, Michael Covel. Not filtered, raw, honest. That's my passion. I hope, like hell, you are not tuning in to listen to me talk about impeachment. If you're focused on impeachment, pro, con, if this has your attention, you literally don't know anything about Washington, D.C. in America in 2020. It's 100% politics. That's it. If there was a crime, it would be partisan, not. It's all partisan. I'm not even taking a side. It's just partisan. Americans agree about crimes. If someone kills somebody, it doesn't make a difference if you're on the left or the right. Everyone buys in and says that's wrong. But what we have today is politics. So whether you are on the left or the right, and you are arguing about this, and you are consumed about it, where have you gone wrong? What's wrong with you? Have you lost touch? Go to the library. Pick up an old book. Stop listening to voices. The voices across social media, the voices across cable news. None of this stuff has any matter to your life. It's pointless. But then again, that's the point. The people in the power want you confused. The people in the power want you abused. They're not your friends. They're not on your team. They're not on your side. If you think there's any, quote, leader who cares about your success, you are mentally challenged. They don't care, nor can they care. They're motivated by one thing and one thing only, their personal self-interest to sit in that chair, whether that chair is on the left or the right, and I don't care what country we're talking about. Politicians are motivated by power, and that's it. They're not motivated by doing the right thing. Now, of course, if there is a situation perhaps like World War II, and you have a situation like the Nazis, good people can come together to stop something. But when there is no pressing concern, government, especially democracy, devolves to one thing: the quest for power. The TV show on Netflix, House of Cards, what do you think? That's fake? It's real life. It's DC. People go to DC to be in power, to be around power, to worship power. Let me get a little graphic here. To suck on power. That's what it's all about. It's not about you. Here's the dirty little secret. You are alone. You, yes, might have family, yes, might have friends, but it's you. You have to wake up each day with an intensity to make something happen, to be excited about creating something. And when I say create something, I'm not talking about dialing in some work for the job, work for the man, say yes, sir, to an asshole your whole life. If you really want to get to a place where you feel good about yourself, you got to look out for yourself. You can't just care what everyone else thinks. Here's a great quote, titled Comparison. Doesn't it just eat away at our joy? What if it was possible for us to celebrate both those who are more gifted than we are and our own best work? What if the standard of success was our own sweat and tears and not some celebrity's magnum opus? What that means, if you read about Michael Bloomberg being worth 50 billion, or your friend or neighbor who's worth $1 million, and you're not, and you care about that, you got a mental problem. Seriously, straight up, something's wrong with you. Because the way this life thing works, it's you. Comparing to other people, does that make you happy? Do you feel good? Why do you give 2 cents about what anyone else is doing in terms of their success? other than to celebrate it, to say, nice job. Wow, that's awesome that Mike Bloomberg built a company and he's worth $50 billion. That's a lot of hard work. Now, it's a lot of luck too, but that's not me going ahead and saying something bad about luck. That's just how life works. Those edges of the bell curve, those outliers, it's hard work and luck. Do you really think that Jeff Bezos worked that much more than you to get to be worth $150 billion? Of course not. He's a brilliant guy. He worked very hard. He probably worked harder than most people. But he didn't work so hard, and he's not so brilliant that it accounts for the $150 billion net worth. That's luck. And if you understand all this, you can be at peace. You can not care. You can just do your own thing. You can wake up each day and say, oh, wow, I saw this piece of information from Larry Haidt, or I saw this piece of information from Howard Marks, or I saw this information, or I heard this information from Mike on his podcast. You like that, the third person? I saw this piece of information from Mike on his podcast with 2 Harvard professors. It was great about AI. That's how you go about it. It's the search. It's the digging for, not the comparison to. It's taking the good information, celebrating it, learning from it, and applying it if you can. That's what's fun. And what I'm talking about never changes. These attitudes, these wrong attitudes, they never change. And change in of itself, as I do a little bit of a pivot here, and I want to quote Confucius, there is only one thing in life which never changes, and it's change. Now, to go big picture and to break away from where I started here, people often don't see that preparing for change or having a strategy for change is a working strategy. For example, trend following. People will come to me and they'll say, does trend following still work today? Haven't the markets changed? Well, of course, if somebody asks that question, they have no idea what trend following is. Trend following presupposes change. Trend following is built on the idea of change. Trend following is following change. That's the whole damn point. It's having a plan to go in the unexpected, momentous direction that you can't predict and being prepared to get out when it flips and goes the other way, and to be prepared along the way for volatility, the ups and downs that come as the move goes in the unexpected direction. So if you know life can change, if you know, for example, the markets can change, you just need a strategy for that change. Now, if you are in a position where you work for the man, you have no money saved, you have a mortgage that pinches 50% of your net worth, you have property taxes eating you alive, you have a car payment eating you alive, you have kids in college overpaying for college education, eating you alive, and you are literally week to week, don't you ever pause and just say, what the hell am I doing? What the hell am I doing? That's called slavery. What I just described is slavery, 100% slavery. Now, it's not the kind of slavery where European and Middle Eastern bad guys of back in the day would go to take people from Africa, but it's the same mindset. You put yourself into all those constraints that I just described, you're a slave. You're not free anymore. And whether or not anything changes, you're sure as hell not prepared for that change. What can you do? Not much, except sit there and take it. So inevitably, when the next meltdown happens, and my God, we have not had one for a long time, most people will take it on the chin. Most people will be standing there going, oh my God, I can't believe what happened. And where did this happen? Trump did it. Someone did it. And then I'll start crying and whining. They lost their house. They lost all their money. What were they doing for the 10 years before that? Not much. That scenario I just described, that doesn't change either. It's all one big circle of damn life, right? I love this one. Another shift from me today. Satchel Paige, famous African-American baseball pitcher, was kept out of the major leagues because he was black for a long time, finally got to the major leagues, I think in his late 40s or something like that. And he actually had success. He was that good. I mean, he probably would have been just amazing in the major leagues in his prime. But he has this quote that I love. He has a lot of great quotes. How old would you be if you didn't know how old you were? Isn't that awesome? That's great. I know 25-year-old, 35-year-old guys in particular who are 60, 70. I know 70-year-old guys that might as well be 125. I know 30-year-old women that might look like they're 19, but they think like they're 45. But when they think like they're 45, it's not a bad thinking. It's a mature thinking. So what are you? Where are you in your thinking? Where are you in your real age? I don't know where I am. I know physically I can do things that I could not do in my 20s. That makes me excited. That makes me energized. And I think I'm open enough to where my mindset would be like a guy in his 20s, but I'm wise enough to where I see things to where I can have a great conversation with Larry Height, and he's much older than I am. So I like this headspace of going back and forth in time. So I don't know for me if it's a particular date, but I think Satchel Paige's question is really important. If you don't know your age, how old are you? Are you some old fat guy just drinking whiskey all day, smoking cigars, watching TV, not moving? Is that you? Or are you those two guys on YouTube that I think are both over 100 years of age running the 100-meter dash in under 20 seconds? Those guys are motivating as hell. Now, as I bounce around today, I want to share a quote from the author Scott Adams. I've not read his newest book, but this is a great quote. My nomination for the most loser-thinkish advice in history is stay in your lane. The world we know was engineered, designed, and built by people who left their lane and tried something outside their temporary skill stack. They figured it out as they went. Now, that is a heavy, wisdom-filled quote from Scott Adams. First off, he says loser-thinkish. What's the nomination for the most loser-thinkish advice? Loser-think, I don't really have to describe what that means. Loser-think would be the person that says, stay in your lane. If I was staying in my lane, I'd be a government employee in the Washington, D.C. area. That's staying in my lane. And guess what? Many people I grew up with, they stayed in their damn lane. And they are employees for the federal government in the Washington, D.C. area. Staying in your lane sucks. Staying in your lane is not fun. If you got somebody in your life telling you to stay in your lane, defriend them, de-own them, block them on Facebook. Anyone who is telling you to stay in your lane is bad news for you. They're taking your energy from you. They're taking your mojo from you. They are just not good for you. Now, maybe they're a fine person in their own little world, but don't let them infect you with a mind virus. If you take anything from this podcast today, it's this: staying in your lane. If that's the direction that some third party's giving you, that third party has a knife in their hand, hiding behind their back, waiting to stab you with it. Maybe not in real life stab you with it, but they will damn harm you, sure as hell. Now, the other thing that Adams says in that quote, he talks about a temporary talent stack. You know, if you're in your, quote, lane and you get outside your lane, how do you do that? You need to have talent. And Adams has a process where he talks about a talent stack. And he points out that the people that can do multiple things good, not necessarily the best in the world, but the person that can edit video and trade and put a blog together. This is called a talent stack. Multiple things, unrelated, that when combined make you powerful as hell. Now, that might be hard for you to believe or understand if you only have one talent or you have one skill. And if you only have one talent and you only have one skill, let's go back to the federal jobs in the Washington, D.C. area. You're not exactly pushing yourself. You are just clocking in to get the paycheck, to get the health care, to eventually get to the place where you just die. And the achievement for you at the end of a life is death. Man, that sounds so morbid, doesn't it? I'm really intense today. I'm not trying to be too intense, but I sat down and thinking about where I wanted to go today. Good night's sleep, a little piss and vinegar. So this is what you're getting today. Apologies if it's the first time you're listening and you feel I'm a little too intense. If this is your first time and you do feel like I'm a little too intense for you, my God, how wonderful is that? We've got a great filter right out of the gate, a divorce. Because if you listen to me today and this is too much for you, you save me so much more potential grief in the future by disappearing today from my life. I really love that Scott Adams quote, though. I love the notion of getting out of your lane. I love the idea of a talent stack. And I love the idea that people criticize that. The entire American educational system is based on having one talent. So you can be an employee. So you can work a job for some man. So eventually you can get the metaphorical gold watch and die. Maybe you'll retire to some beach community on the Atlantic coast, and you'll sit there and you'll watch the waves, and you'll think back over the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 decades, and you'll wonder, what the hell did you do? What did you try? What did you risk? Were you afraid to go live outside of America or your home country, whatever it might be? Were you afraid what you might find out about yourself? That's the real trick, isn't it? You might find out something about yourself you don't like. You might find out something about yourself that says you were a little weak and you weren't pushing the pedal to the metal. I better stop myself and wind myself down. Otherwise, I won't get anything accomplished for what I want to do on my particular day today, which is not only do this monologue. Don't get me wrong. I love doing the monologues. This is part of my meditation. Now, I don't do any of that meditation where people go sit around and they sit in a particular pose and they don't talk for 6 days or something like that. That's not my cup of tea. Clearly, I can't go 6 days and not talk. I like the exercise of my mouth. That does sound bizarre, though, the exercise of my mouth. But I think it's a way that I've developed to think. Not only do I listen, I work really hard at that, especially when I have guests on. But the process of talking, especially out loud, in of itself is a risk-taking mechanism. It causes other people reactions. It causes reactions in you. And then there's other data you can gather when that starts to happen, when that firestorm starts to happen. That's part of my technique. I love it. That's what makes me feel good. This is fun for me. Winding down, I want to offer 2 pieces of technology wisdom. First, the AirPods Pro. These little white ear things that Apple sells, they came out with a new edition. I've never bought these things. I've seen people walking around with them. I thought they looked like idiots. But I was in an Apple store the other day. The guy said, try these on, put these on. I put them on. He hit the noise cancel feature. I said, give me another pair. The lady in my life was buying a pair. I said, give me a pair. It was that quick. $250 for noise-canceling earbuds. Absolutely the coolest damn piece of tech I've seen in a while. Check them out. Now, on the flip side to my earbuds or earpods or whatever the hell they call them, that piece of wisdom that you should check out. I guess it's not wisdom you're checking out, but actually my advice, my buying advice for you to go to the store and check them out. On the flip side, let me tell you something else that I think is worth considering about technology. If you need a calendar app, your life is miserable. If you need a calendar app on your phone, your life is miserable. Maybe you don't know your life is miserable, but you are creating so much extra bullshit if you need a calendar app on your phone. Now, the reason I thought of this, the reason this even came into my mind, recently I've had many podcast guests that when we agree on a time, they text me and they say, send me a calendar invite. I write them back and I say, I don't do that. you're going to have to figure out a way to keep track of your own damn time and your own damn date. Me, I've got one piece of paper and I write it down on a piece of paper and it tells me what time I have to have a podcast, and that's it. But what's the larger issue here with these calendar apps? You're a slave. It's too much stuff. If you can't keep track of your life on a single sheet of paper, your life is too complicated, or you don't know what the hell you're doing. And let's face it, if your life is too complicated and you don't know what you're doing, you're probably not happy. Oh, you might say you're happy. You might pretend you're happy. You might tell yourself that you're happy. Your friends and family might tell you that you're happy. But man, if you got to sit down each day and write down on some app, which is not as fast as writing down on a piece of paper, if you got to write on some app what the hell you're supposed to do that day and you don't know, that's a lot of extra effort. That's OCD crazy. Step back. Keep it simple. This is trend following 101. For example, I see people regularly, they get into the process of understanding trend following. And they write me and they say, well, this market is close to an all-time high. What do I do now? Do I buy on a pullback? Are there some other signals? And I'm like, this is momentum trading. Get the hell in. If you've got an entry signal, get in. What's your downside? You got an exit, don't you? You got to stop, don't you? Right back to Larry Hyde's book, The Rule. What's the rule? Get the hell out if you have a stop. So look, big picture, keep it simple. Steer clear of these calendar apps. If you really need a calendar app, go hire an employee to keep track of your life. Hire an assistant. The whole focus, everywhere that I want to go, the things that I can pass along, the things that I like to learn, at their root are about simplification. Because if you can get simple, you got less stress. If you got less stress, you smile each day. You're more happy. Life's easier. You go to the gym, you work out. You feel better. You eat better. Find that way to get simple. Find that way to think about avoiding comparisons. Find that way to avoid staying in your lane. Don't find yourself going towards loser think. And just always know, change is change, and change always changes. But you can have a strategy to deal with constant change. If you think I'm wrong, you can think that too. I see a time when those awake will understand how to make money in up, down, and surprise markets. Whether new trader or experienced, college student or financial advisor, protecting against a crash or just trying to make a lot of money, trend following offers everyone an answer in uncertain times. To get started immediately, send me an email, michael@covel.com. I will send you the right trend following steps to take along with my free video. But if you want to buy and hold, trust the government and trust Wall Street, this is absolutely not for you.